That is heavy. And so I want to share a slide with you as you're all continuing to put that in and update that. Let's share. Here is a picture of a pen. It seems silly and simple, right? But if you all have one with you, which I do, and you put it between your two fingers like this, and maybe use a pencil, something firm that you can hold with your two fingers, and you give it a try. And I'm really going to encourage you to give this a try. It's super simple. But if you can, if you have one hand that you can use right now and a pen, pencil, or something stick like that you can put in your fingers, I want you to put it between your two fingers and then flick it. And notice what happens. Whoa, it falls right out. Or it gets whipped all around, right? When people come to me, and even I myself have been here, we all have, okay? This is what I call two finger connected. It's when life happens and the tornadoes of schoolwork, marital challenges, the tornadoes of, you can't see me, so I'm going to stop sharing again. The tornadoes of schoolwork, of marital challenges, of all of those pieces that are the responsibilities, the mental load that are happening. It feels like there's a tornado of life happening, right? And the tornado starts throwing things at us, spitting things out at us. It gets closer to us. What happens to that pen? Gets whipped all around, right? Can anyone relate? I don't know if you know how to show your hands in here, but if you can relate to feeling like life, parenthood, motherhood, as much as you love your children, of course, can whip you around because there's all of these variables that you can't control no matter how hard you try to control them. If you could do just a share of hands and say if you can relate to that at all, because I certainly have. And that's where people are at. I dropped my pen, it fell somewhere. That's where people are at typically that are rating, yes, right? A 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 level of stress on the regular basis. Now, here's the challenge, ladies, moms, and any other caregivers that are here that I don't know about. When we are here, two finger connected, and the tornadoes of life are happening with parenting, with our children struggling with their own mental health, we are actually at a place right here where we are dysregulated ourselves, where we are not as connected to our own resources internally. And what happens, if anyone is willing to share, what happens when our kids are having a hard time and we are in this two-finger dysregulated place, struggling ourselves? What happens? How do we tend to handle things, react to things? What happens?
We can snap.
Snap, so explode outwardly or implode inwardly and start shaming or blaming yourself, shaming or blaming someone else. Maybe we take it out in our marriage or with our partners. Maybe we take it out on our children inadvertently, right? But we become in this place of reactivity or perhaps some of us even numbness. But we're not in this place where we really truly want to be able to show up and navigate in a way that feels good to us. So many years ago, I was in a place of burnout and I was not able to feel as present and connected as I wanted to feel. And I allowed that to grow bigger and bigger and bigger because I told myself I can handle the stress. Where I was working in the schools, I had 3 kids at the time. I told myself no one else could understand, no one else wants to help anyway. And I allowed it to continue. And as I did that, what wound up suffering was my own health. And when our own health is suffering, it makes it even more difficult for us to be able to feel as connected with our children and as supportive as we want to be with them. So I want to pause right here. Let's see if we can check the chat and see where things are at. All right, so we have some 4. Yep. Curse, lose temper. Thank you, Lara. 6, 7, 8. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, you, everyone. Everyone who's feeling some level of stress right now, are you able to identify how you know you're feeling stressed? It's a weird question, right? How do you know you're feeling stressed? How do we know? This is an interesting question. And the reason I'm asking it is because one of the things that's really helpful for us to help our children navigate stress, anxiety, strong emotions is for us to begin to be able to identify it, but then also create a sense of distance between you and the stress itself. Rather than I am stressed, it has defined me and has taken over me because I'm two finger connected and it's whipping me around. Right? Well, my chest is tight. My stomach is swirling. My shoulders are really tight. My hands, my palms are sweaty. But what we tend to do is want to go straight into reactive mode, into action mode. And the challenge with this is that it actually takes us away from being present and in the moment, and it allows us to get whipped around by the emotions. So how are we all doing so far? Does this make sense so far? Yeah? This is an important, thank you, Avi. This is an important thing that seems so silly and so simple. So let's get into some of these questions, okay, that we want to talk about today. What are some healthy ways for parents to model coping skills for their children, especially during moments of heightened stress? This is one of the questions the team shared with me. And the foundational point here is for us to be able to notice when we're two finger connected so that we can begin to pull ourselves in and feel more core connected. More connected in our core. And when we feel more connected in our core, we're able to have this clarity of mind where our brain comes online, our forefront brain here, the logical thinking brain, is able to come online and is able to have some reasoning and logic. But our children, that part of their brain is still developing. They don't have that yet in the way that we do. And so one of the most challenging things we can find ourselves in is that we're two finger connected and so is our child. And what's happening? Well, if we're two finger connected and the tornado is happening, we want to control the tornado. But we can't. We can't control the tornado. What we can do is we can come in and practice some practices, and we'll practice some today if you all are open to that. Practice some awareness within ourselves to be able to come in and really notice, where am I at as mom? What do I need as mom? So as you notice the number that you're at right now, 0 to 10, your stress number. You're somewhere out here, okay? Because we have numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna challenge you to see if you can describe to yourself what that feels like in your body. So how you even know that you're stressed. So for me, my chest, my heart can beat really quickly. My eyes can get hypervigilant. When my kids are maybe all talking to me at the same time, I could be having a hard time focusing, noticing what that stress is. Okay? And we're going to we'll practice one thing right now, which is to be able to soothe our polyvagal nerve, our nervous system, by breathing in the nose and then actually humming, causing a vibration to go through our nervous system. It's one small way that we can begin to ease the nervous system like this. You're all on silent, so you can try it and no one will know, right? You won't seem silly or weird. I get to be the silly or weird one, right? Vibration is something that is a co-regulation coping. It's not a coping skill, because coping skill is a way of how can we kind of deal with what it is right now and not necessarily focus on shifting it. And so this is a co-regulation skill that helps the brain and body to have the emotion move through us rather than stay stuck at this two-finger connected. And as that emotion moves through us, we're not fighting it, we're not pushing against it, which means we're not fighting with our child and we're not pushing against what they're doing or what they're saying. Instead, we're taking this deep breath in our nose, we're humming. Notice the difference. Even a 0.5% difference allows for co-regulation. You can do this in front of your children. You can do this with your children. And you know what? If you seem silly, that's actually a helpful thing because it loosens up the tension when they're in the tornado or they're feeling really dysregulated and then you get dysregulated and you're going like this together. Instead, they're getting dysregulated, they're in the tornado, but you are coming closer to regulation. You are coming closer to core connected, which allows your front brain, right? So your logical thinking, reasoning brain that has critical thinking skills and can get really creative. It allows that to come online, and then you can break up the seriousness a little bit with some silliness, with something as simple as this 10-second breathing exercise. That's one way that we can co-regulate to help model for our children. You know what? Mommy feels stressed sometimes too. Mommy feels frustrated sometimes too. One of my kids is on the spectrum and has a hard time with my light just went off and has a hard time with rigid thinking and emotions getting really strong. And so one of the things that has been helpful is to focus on connection. I would say something like, let me see your eyes. Let your eyes see my eyes. Look at my eyes with your eyes. Something as simple as that. Even if he's in a dysregulated state, his eyes seeing my eyes and my eyes looking at his is a simple technique to say, I can handle the dysregulation you're going through. I can be connected with you, even though you're having a hard time. This is an attachment level strategy that helps our children know that we can be a steady space of safety and connection for them, even when they are struggling. But how do we do this if we are struggling ourselves? That's one of the top questions I get asked. Okay, cool. Like, that's a nice strategy, but like, what if I can't even get myself there? What if I can't get myself to remember to do the breathing and the humming? What if I can't get myself to remember to say, let my eyes see your eyes, let your eyes see my eyes? What if I can't remember to do that because I'm so dysregulated or I get so quickly pulled out into the two-finger connection? This is one of those areas where we get in the conversation of self-care being selfish, and where you hear me say that self-care isn't selfish, right? But there's a different term that I've been using recently that I have found really resonant for me, and I wonder if it's resonant for you. Because if you think about the word philanthropist, what I think about is a wealthy person that gives to others, gives to causes, to people, to places that they care about. So they share their abundance of wealth outwardly with others, right? And so a term that came to my heart and mind just a few weeks ago, I've been speaking with it with clients the past few weeks, is what if self-care helps us to be emotional philanthropists, where because we are prioritizing what we need and taking care of that, then we are able to give from a wealth of internal emotional wellness, as opposed to what many times when we're in stress, what we feel, what do we feel? The opposite of that, right? I have nothing to give. I'm tapped out. I am depleted. There's nothing left in this cup, right? And when we feel like we're being pulled in so many directions and there's more to give and more to do and more to go and more problems and more fires to put out and we're depleted ourselves, now it feels like, oh yeah, like people are thinning me out and I have nothing left to give, even if I want to give. And then we breed resentment, frustration, guilt, shame, all of these things that actually make the emotional experience even harder, pull us further out in the core connection as opposed to further back in. And so I'm curious if you hear the term emotional philanthropist, if you could experience self-care as an investment in you becoming an emotional philanthropist as a mom, as a parent, what comes up for you? Does that change anything? Does it resonate? Does it not resonate? Or is there resistance to it? Is it like, not possible? Or is it like, yeah, like that's helpful? Put in the chat, let me know. Or you can even come off if anybody feels comfortable coming off. I really like to have conversations because I feel like we can get down into the bones of things a little bit more. Let me know what comes up for you. Hmm. So I'm seeing here that there are some responses to what's happening with the stress response. Does that stress response shift for you? The heart beats fast, my neck muscles contract, the headaches, the when I take a mental health day from work, the I can't focus, I can't relax, I have to keep moving, doing, being, the tight feeling in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the heart beating fast. Does any of that shift even the slightest amount as you consider what if what if instead of functioning from depletion or overwhelm or chronic stress, if I was feeling, if I was believing that I could function more from this emotional philanthropy lens? Is there any shift at all? And it's okay if there's not, right? This is part of the meat of the conversation where we get into the nitty gritty. There's no right or wrong answer. There's just your answer. Does that change at all for you? Let me know. You can say it, you can take your audio off mute or you can type it in the chat. I remember when I was at the height of burnout, I also was experiencing nearly all of what you have shared here. TMJ, actually got my wisdom teeth removed because they thought maybe that would work. It did not. That tight feeling in the chest. And continuing to do what I was doing wasn't helping. I had to make a decision, micro decisions, to try something different, to be open to something different. And that's part of this conversation here with all of us together today. Juanita said, it makes total sense to care for self first in order to be able to care for others. We have to show up for ourselves. I like to check in with myself so I know I'm approaching from a healthy perspective to deal with stressful situations. Thank you for sharing that, Juanita. So when I was trying to move myself out of burnout, and as I work with other moms as well, this is one of the key areas, but I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Right? Like, where is the time from? And honestly, the talk about emotions is a waste of my time because I have such limited time and I need to get stuff done, not sit here and feel my emotions, right? But what I can tell you is that the thing that moves the needle in a different direction is these conversations. As weird as they are, as abstract as they seem, as uncomfortable or unproductive as they seem, sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. Seems so contradictory, doesn't it? To slow down to speed up. So one of the things that's essential for parenting, whether it's parenting a neurotypical child or parenting a child with special needs, especially in the modern day, is to have the ability to straddle structure and flow. So we need the structure to provide consistency for our children and for ourselves. But we also don't want to get so rigid that nothing can flow in and out of the boundaries that we create. How do we do that? It seems so contradictory. When I was working in the schools and I had the 3 children, one of the things that I started to incorporate was a morning. You know how people do like a cutoff, like kids got to go in their rooms at a certain time at night? Well, my kids were morning kids, so I had to do a morning curfew. And all my kids knew that before, I think it was 7:15 a.m., if I remember correctly. Maybe it was 7 a.m. Before 7 a.m. is mom time. Because mom can be a better mom for you if she can have this time for her. And they were not allowed to come downstairs unless, of course, it was an emergency, right? To have some flow there. They weren't allowed to come downstairs until that time. I created that time for myself. How, in what way, even in a small way, are you able to set some time aside for you so you can invest in this emotional philanthropy within yourself? Okay, well, my child has behaviors. Yes. What do we do about that? We need something that has structure and flow. One of the things that's really helpful, you can see that my setup is a little bit wonky tonight because I had to move because of my office. Like I said, be adaptable. Are individualized behavior charts. And I have like 8 of them here over the years. So I'm just going to show you some examples. Now, once your kid gets into middle school, a behavior chart becomes less appropriate. But the elementary kiddos, they thrive also off of positive reinforcement. Okay, so if you can create a behavior chart, and don't use the word behavior chart, you want it to be fun. So it could be their car chart or their rewards chart or their good choice chart. We use good choice chart a lot. Okay, it can be more open-ended. It can be more specific, right? So this says showing kindness, eating my meal all gone, handling my big feelings well, making good choices. See how clear that is? Simple but clear. So we want to be able to create opportunities to point out the positive. Whereas when we're 2-finger connected, what do we typically focus on? What do you think? When we're 2-finger connected, we're feeling more stressed, frustrated, angry, reactive, anxious. What do we tend to focus on? The positive or the what?
Negative.
The negative. The things that are going wrong, the things that we can't control. And how does that make us feel? As we try to grasp for control of what we can't control, it makes us feel worse. And it becomes the spiral that we get stuck in. And now we're the parent in the spiral that we're stuck in, and our kids are in the spiral that they're stuck in, and it feels incompatible because it is. So before we can be of best support to our children, we honor our relationship with them by finding small ways we can be of best support to ourselves. I want to pause here and I want to see, yes, this is landing. No, this isn't landing. And I want you to be as honest as possible. Poke holes in what I'm talking about. Let me know because I want to really get to the nitty-gritty here of those who are alive here with us today, of what you are bringing here so we can support that. I'm all about that. So let me know. Yes, it's landing. No, it's not. I'm having resistance around this. This doesn't make sense. Let me know. You can pop it in the chat or you can come off audio. It's okay if babies are crying in the background. I have that all the time.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Juanita.
Hi, hello. This makes absolute sense because, it's interesting when you become a mom, you're a wife, and somehow or another you're thrown in this role where you're so focused on taking care of everyone that you forget to take care of yourself. Sometimes you forget to make your hair appointment.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning to try to do like a weekly check-in with myself to see what parts of me is being neglected or what parts are working. And so
Mhm.
this is totally landing because I'm spending more time doing that and less time um, being guilty that I'm not taking care of everything or everybody.
Mm-hmm. Thank
So
you.
yeah, this is landing.
And are there any parts of it that you're like, that's going to be the hardest part, or I don't understand that, or like, no, that's definitely not going to work? Are there any parts you want to poke holes in?
Well, I'm still struggling with structuring bedtime routine
Mm,
because my guy's a night owl like I am. And I think the weekend kind of it turns into the week because
mhm,
there are a lot of late weekend nights because you're kind of celebrating. It's the end of the school week, it's the end of the work week, and we stay up late. Usually just he and I watching TV or doing something. And so I like the idea of the charts that you showed,
yeah.
and I'm wondering how to incorporate that
Mm.
because this is middle school, older middle school.
So one of the things I do, I don't think I mentioned, I pulled my two middle boys out. So my middle schooler who's in seventh grade and my Um, he's in third, and then my third grader. I just pulled them out of public schools in January, and I am now homeschooling those two, in addition to my younger two being home. So I have four kids home 24/7, right? While working and all that fun stuff. And um, I needed to create some kind of structure because what I know to be true, and I have created hundreds of behavior charts over the years for a variety of families. And I have been on thousands of IEP team meetings and done a ton of consulting, right, around students and families that are struggling with behaviors, right? And so it needs to be individualized. And so I'm not saying that this is exactly what any one person should do, but I am saying this is a good place to start to get your mind thinking. What could work for us as a family? So I have them home and I have to think about what is the structure that is going to help us hold our day together, hold ourselves together, create some kind of foundation for us to know what the expectations are jointly, while also creating a form of positive reinforcement that's appropriate for the different age levels, right, that I have at home. And so what I created for my middle schooler is this token economy idea where I identified specific behaviors that are expectations um, that I want to see with him. For example, generosity, and I focus on the kinds of character I want him to develop because he's older. He's not in elementary school anymore. He's in middle school, right? So generosity and compassion. So if I see him showing generosity and compassion to one of his younger siblings without being probed, without being prompted, I'm pointing that out and I'm saying, wow, that was really generous of you. You earned a token. He is not allowed to ask for tokens and he's not allowed to do something specifically for tokens. So it is not set up as, oh, I'll just do this so I can get this. Instead, it's me as the parent creating the structure. These are the expectations that I have for you as a middle schooler to demonstrate in your behavior. These are character traits I want us to be able to cultivate within you as we are learning and growing together in this home. And when I see it, I'm going to point it out. And you know what that does? It's not just a positive reinforcement socially or within our home or our family dynamics. It helps wire his nervous system.
Right.
It gives him a dopamine hit that says, wow, that felt really good to be noticed doing something good. The impact of that is ongoing to the point where it begins to become second nature, right? Does that pull up anything for you, Juanita, or anything, or anyone else?
So it sounds like the emphasis is more on trying to establish more positive behaviors and traits, um, which is more important, I would say more important, but more essential than saying, screaming about going to bed on time.
Yes. So I love this. I use this idea all the time. So if I tell you not to think about a white elephant, no matter what you do, don't think about a white elephant. Do not, Jessica, Leah, Jillian, Jamie, Amy, do not think about a white elephant. Stephanie, Blanca, Lauren, do not think about a white elephant. Whatever you do, do not think about a white elephant. What are you all thinking about? You're thinking
White
about a white
elephant.
elephant. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're thinking about a white elephant, right? And so this interesting thing that we do as parents, right? So we get two finger connected because we feel really stressed out because there's a bunch of variables happening that we have no control over. And so we focus on the thing that we don't want. And we say, don't do that. Stop doing that. I don't like, right? Or and then we get really frustrated and now our communication is more agitated, our connection is more strained in that moment. And the point of focus is not actually on the desired behavior with the desired connection. And so what we want to do instead is do a little bit of pre-paving, focusing on the what we want. So um I'll use one of my kids' names for example. So, Levi, we are having a hard time with bedtime because what I'm noticing is that you're going to bed later, and I take ownership of that because I'm staying up with you too, and I'm letting you go to bed later. But I'm noticing that it's affecting you the next day. It's also affecting me the next day. And so, for this reason, and this reason, we need to change that. This is going to be the updated structure. Okay, this is the updated structure. These are the
Mhm.
updated expectations. And these are the reasons why. Allow them to join at a middle school age. They can join a conversation. What are your thoughts about this? What ideas do you have about this? I want to hear what you have to say. And then take the time to the areas where there can be some um, kind of negotiation, take the time to have that with them. And the areas where there can't be some negotiation, make that clear with them. They want to understand, even if they disagree. And they want to feel cared about in the communication, even if they don't get the final say. And then from there, what's on mom, right? What's on parent, what's on dad or caregiver is consistency.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to begin this on this date. I want to give you that heads up. I'm going to do my best to stick with it. If I mess up, I'm going to own up. Here's what's expected. And if you choose, there might be some times where you choose, like this is a particular expectation where I know it's going to be a really hard thing for us to work on. And so maybe there is an incentive that I put at the end, a reward that I put on the other side of this. Maybe there's not. That's going to be really individualized. Is that helpful, or is there more around that that feels a little bit unclear?
Oh no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else want to pop up, pop on?
There's a question in the chat,
Yeah.
or not a question, but just a comment. Um, it makes sense, but I'm struggling to find the best ways, tools, and time to practice self-care.
Blanca, does what feels more, and everybody else can respond to this internally or in the chat as well. What feels more feasible, morning or nighttime? To take 5 minutes to yourself, and we're just going to start with 5 minutes, okay? What feels more feasible, morning or nighttime?
Night.
Night, okay?
Night for sure.
Okay. What feels more feasible, 5 minutes or 15 minutes?
5, but 15 is better.
Yeah. So we're going to play around a little bit here, okay? Because we want this to be within reach. If we set you up for something that's not within reach, just because you think you should do it because it should help, we've set you up for failure. And that's actually going to make you feel worse because now you're like, I tried to do this thing that I should have done and it didn't work. And now I'm really frustrated because I put my energy and effort into doing this thing, right? We don't want to do that. So some folks have morning 15 minutes. Okay. So this is the place to begin, as simple as it seems. You don't need to start it right this second. So I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to ask, morning or night? Some of you said morning, some of you said night. 5 minutes or 15 minutes? Some of you said 5 minutes, some of you said 15. In fact, one of you said 20. Okay? Get out a piece of paper right now and write that down. Morning for 15 minutes, night for 5 minutes. We're just going to start, we're going to work through this together. Okay? Or if you want to put it on your phone, whatever you have in front of you. Okay. And then I want you to ask yourself, if I could have that time to myself, so that 5 minutes at night or that 15 minutes in the morning, whatever that is that you wrote down that you chose, how is it that I want to feel? Right? So what is it that I want to gain here? What is the experience I want to feel from that? Why would I even do that? This is our why. Like, why would we even do that? The limited amount of time that we have. Why would we even do that for ourselves? I have an intentional scheduler that I created that I'm going to share with you all. It's a template that you can use. I wonder if I can pull it up to show it to you. And you can use this in 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 20 minutes. And this is a starting point. So let me see if I can pull it up so I can share it with you. Here we go. And I can share the link with anyone who's interested later. It's a free download. It might not let me pull it up. Oh, here's one. I don't think this is my most up-to-date one, but I'm going to share it with you because this is really helpful. And if it's of interest to you all, you just let me know. I'll share the link and you can have it. So let me share my screen again so you can see it. Okay. This is a place to begin, and it is a place that infuses science, psychology, and soul. Okay. So it is science backed. If you engage with it, even just 5 minutes a day, each day, and you do it with intention, you'll begin to help rewire your focus, your nervous system. Was someone going to say something? I don't know if you came off mute on purpose or by accident, but if you want to say something, totally okay, let me know. So you'll see here, It says, My Purposeful Living Scheduler. And you get to go in here, take some time with yourself, and write. Today I choose to focus on experiencing. Now, if you're doing this at night, you'll say, Tonight. Tonight I choose to focus on experiencing. In these 5 minutes, I choose to focus on experiencing. The challenge that we run into is that we think that we should be doing X, Y, or Z, and then we try to make ourselves do it. And doing any self-care for the sake of doing self-care becomes counterproductive. It only works. The only way to rewire our nervous system on purpose is if we are doing it with elevated emotion on purpose and repeatedly. That is how we do it. That is how we become more core connected and notice when we're two finger connected so that we can pull ourselves back in to more of that core connection. If you do this for 5 minutes each night and you stick with it and you actually feel about it while you do it, you'll feel a difference in 2 weeks. Is that helpful or not helpful? Bye, Andrea. Thank you for being here. What are your thoughts? Does that feel like you could do it or not? Okay, Blanca says it's helpful. Yes. Okay, awesome. I think there's a way. Avi, is there a way I can share the links with you guys later and you can send it out to everyone if they want to download the stuff?
You can share with me, since you have my contact information, and I'll figure out a way to get it to whoever would like it.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
And I think that's a great way, like a tangible thing that we can, take with us. So to help.
Yes. And Cicely asked, Tony, can you talk about how a conversation around limiting access to cell phones, social media, due to increased feelings of anxiety and depression, is there a way to have a similar conversation and frame it in a positive way? I think that's a really important question. I do think it merits a larger conversation, but I also think that it fits into what we're talking about here in that structure and flow. Okay. So, what are the challenges that are being created by the social media, by the phone use? We need to be able to have that conversation with our children. We do not live in a day and age anymore where kids are just going to accept because I said so. And that means that us parents are going to get activated more, challenged more, right? But that's when our stuff comes up, that's for us to navigate. It's for us to manage, and we can. I'm going to open up some parent support groups, if that's something that's going to be helpful for folks, so that we can have a not recorded time to talk. And I'll share that link with Avi too. So if folks want to do that, you want to go deeper on a more like individualized basis, then we can do that together. Right? So have the structure clear. These are the challenges that are being created around the phone and social media use. But also, I can see that maybe these are areas where you're benefiting or you're enjoying it. And so this is the structure that I, as your mom, for these reasons, I need to create. What are some of your ideas about the flow? Okay, so what are some of your ideas about the days that you would like to choose to be able to have access to it and the particular times? So even though you, mom, are choosing the frequency and the duration, right? Then perhaps your child gets some say in the flow. So the timing or the particular apps that they want to use. To engage in conversation in a way, my eyes, your eyes, connected. Not focused on convincing or correcting or controlling, which is what we tend to get into when we're two finger connected, but instead prioritizing a connection through curiosity questions and compassion statements that join us in conversation. And we can do that. I do that with my 3-year-old. Okay, so it's not like when they're little, you can't talk to them either, right? So little, bigger, and even in the adolescent years when their answers are really short or they don't want to talk, you can still keep that door open. That is the most important thing for adolescents. For those of you that have teenagers, it's not, you can't force them to walk through the door of conversation with you. They are developmentally wired to distance themselves from you, to push back. to create space, to try to figure out who they are separate from you. They need that. They need that. We don't want to rob them of that experience, but we do want them to know that our connection, the opportunity to come have a conversation with us and connect with us, that door is always open. And we care and we are safe, even when the conversation is hard. Yeah. All right. Do we have question? And I know we hit a bunch of different topics here. I know some folks have to go because we're past 8 o'clock. Did we have questions come in that I missed, Sarah?
We did have one question, and I apologize if we got to this and I missed it, but I don't think we did. Someone asked if you could talk about how to have a conversation around limiting access to cell phones and social media due to increased feelings of anxiety and depression, and is there a way to have a similar conversation and frame it in a positive way?
Yes, we just did that one.
Great, thank you.
Yes, yes.
That is the only other question I have, but I want to give a minute or two now that we're opening up to Q&A to allow people to enter in any questions that they have into the chat.
Yes, please do. And I will just share, there's a couple of resources here that are available to you all if you want to check them out. One is the Moms Reset Collective, specifically for moms, for modern day women, right? To be able to come together. It's on a wait list. It's a brand new offering. So it's one of these things that we can come together and we can have more in-depth conversations, which I think help do these discussions justice. And the parent support groups that I mentioned. But if you're like, I just want a step-by-step thing that I can do just a little bit each day, that's what the reset book is for. And it really walks you through a little bit by a little bit by a little bit each day. How can I reconnect with myself to feel more core connected so that I can really engage with my child who may be in a dysregulated place, which is expected, right? It's expected for our children to get dysregulated sometimes. So how can I notice when I'm in this dysregulated place so I can support my child when they are? Was someone saying something? I thought I heard someone. I'll wait a moment.
And
We
while
don't
we're
have any
waiting,
other
I just wanted to
questions.
say thank you. Yeah.
We just have a comment that I apologize I have to drop, but I would love to dig deeper with this topic. Thank you for your time. It doesn't look like we have any extra questions coming in. Avi, did you have any questions before we wrap up that you wanted to chime in on?
I don't. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was really helpful. I think we covered a lot of grounds and, have some really good tangible, ideas and thoughts we can leave with to help us feel more grounded. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who is joining with us tonight.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining. And again, the a recording of this will be available on the ISC YouTube page. I provided a link to it earlier, and I'll provide a link to it in some of the parent Facebook groups. You can find it there as well. And thank you to the Committee on Special Education for co-hosting this with us. It was lovely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
All
you for
right. Thank you,
here.
Tony.
Thank you, Dr. Tony.
Have a great evening, and don't forget to take 5 minutes for yourself tonight. Bye-bye.
15.